Pickens Jackson.
Hey, what do you say we sing a driving song?
There's not going to be any singing around here. Just
real sports
on the Afternoon Drive with Jake Wimberly.
Oh, this is going to be sweet.
And it's all right here, right now on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
#26 day of February 2024. Welcome in, Champ in the Chair Sports Maven. Monday, it is back. Hope it's been a good one so far. I hope if it has not been, that it'll get a little better for you over the next 3 hours. Here with you till 6 o'clock today. Brought to you by Ameristar Casino. Get out and play today. Of course, grab the Bet Builder. As always, go to ameristarcasino.com/Vicksburg and get in and play. A lot to play. We'll have the MHSA basketball championship starting Thursday. It'll be Thursday afternoon, late afternoon, all day Friday, all day Saturday. You can get that right here on the Zone 105.9 and, of course, the Zone1059.com. Texas 601-885-3776. That is the Cowboy Maloney's text line. Make your house a home today with Cowboy Maloney's. 13 locations around the state. Online at cowboymaloneys.com. You can always call us 601-897-1059. ecmalone.com is their website. 8337 Malone commercial. Residential roofing done right with Malone Roofing Services. And, of course, we're on X at Jake Wim. That's courtesy of Clinton Body Shop. Clinton and Richland, OEM factory certified. All the manufacturers you trust at Clinton Body Shop. We'll have Chris Landry, 4 to 4:30. We'll talk all NFL Combine. A lot of Combine stuff. Also, Doug Kyle at the 3 o'clock hour, third hour. It's 5 o'clock hour. Third hour, 5:15 on some baseball. All right, let's see here. Bieber, we got a lot. Did you see this Cam Newton fight? What in the world happened with that? I mean, I just saw the stuff on, I guess, X. Just a football camp. I'm not sure what happened, what started it, but an absolute melee of sorts as far as what went on with that. Of course, more baseball, more basketball this week as we move into this week. Mississippi State now 4-4 overall. Ole Miss 4-4. Arkansas 5-2. You've got Alabama, Texas A&M 8-0 and 7-0. LSU at 7-1. Auburn at 6-1. You've also got Georgia at 7-0. South Carolina and Tennessee took their first losses over the weekend, both sitting at 7-1. You've got Kentucky at 6-1. Florida at 5-1. 5-3 for Vanderbilt and 4-3 for Missouri. And when you look at the SEC basketball standings in the Southeastern Conference after the weekend, you got Tennessee now tied with Alabama after they got punched in the face by Kentucky over the weekend. Tennessee has now won 4 straight ball games. They are 21-6 overall, 11-3 in the conference. Alabama 11-3. You got South Carolina and Auburn at 10-4. They're a game off the clip. You've got Kentucky and Mississippi State right there. Florida and Kentucky at 9-5. Mississippi State at 8-6. Ole Miss 6-8. Texas A&M 6-8. It probably cuts right there. So we'll get into what's going on with basketball coming up this weekend. Let's see here. White Denzel also appears to be mutual interests between Western Kentucky and the MAC as well. Yeah, I was going to get to this, and we will. There's a little bit of small conference realignment in college football happening right now. Just a little bit. We only have 2 independents left in college football. That'll be Notre Dame and UConn. And as Pete Thamel reports, White Denzel sent this to us, Massachusetts, UMass, set to join the MAC in all sports 25-26 seasons. MAC presidents voted to invite the UMass as a new member today. UMass is expected to accept. So I have not seen this. It could be out there. This Western Kentucky and MAC as well. Of course, Western Kentucky may be looking to get out of Conference USA. Conference USA, I don't know how much pop it has left, but we'll see. Res Dog also, Jake, MSU is a basketball school for one more day. One more day. Hey, we got dark horse Heisman candidates that might be worthy of a wager this spring. We'll get into these are dark horse Heisman candidates. We'll get into that list courtesy of Brad Crawford. Also, Josh Pate put out some stuff on college football. We'll get to the two things he believes is baked into the ongoing college football playoff talks. Ian Rappaport on the NFL draft. Caleb Williams will wait until his pro day to throw for workouts, or to throw and work out for scout. Sources say he'll be in Indianapolis, but will not throw for teams. A couple quarterbacks doing this. I want to ask Chris Landry about this. Is this a good thing, a bad thing, or does it matter? Also, 8 teams. I love it when we start getting into this. 8 teams who could throw a wrench in the playoff picture. We'll get into these specifically. South Florida, SMU, Texas Tech. Always Texas Tech right there. NC State, Virginia Tech, West Virginia, Kansas, and Nebraska. We'll get into that. We'll dissect that. As over the weekend, Beav, I went through a lot. I mean, I got every conference done just about, well, for sure every conference in the Power 5, starting in some Group of 5, but their schedules aren't totally out. And I will tell you this. I'm starting to feel really good about a national champion, and it's February 26th, and it ain't Michigan. I'm feeling really, really good about a national champion. I'll tell you who that – I won't tell you today. But I will tell you this. As far as the playoff is concerned, out of the conferences right now, really like Miami's roster and, of course, their quarterback and what they're bringing back in the ACC. I like Florida State. I feel like Clemson may be trending backwards just a bit. They still have a chance to make the playoff. When you look at the SEC, I like Georgia and Texas and Ole Miss, and I'll be honest with you, I like Tennessee. Alabama, I do not like to make the playoff. I'm not buying what's going on at Missouri after a lot of stuff looking at this weekend, but I do like Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. When you look at the Big Ten, I like Oregon and Ohio State and Penn State as the top 3 teams there, and it's not Michigan. And in the Big 12, I like Central Florida, believe it or not. I like Central Florida. I like what Kansas State is doing. Utah is going to be right there. West Virginia is going to be right there. Again, that conference is going to be there's going to be a lot of heavy lifting there. And then, when you look at the Group of 5, obviously Liberty is going to be the bell cow there. Memphis is going to have a shot at that. South Florida is going to have a shot at that as well. All right, let's see here. Brett McMurphy reports his Buckle Up Barry. UNLV coach Barry Odom will celebrate the first day of his program's spring practice by riding a live bull. The unique event, dubbed Horns and Helmets, will take place Saturday, March 2nd at the South Point Hotel. And I have no idea if Barry Odom has any experience on a bull. People, you ever ridden a bull? You ever ridden a mechanical bull? Would you ride a bull for charity? All right, he says he will. We may have to buckle him up. I am too old to be getting on bulls. Also, Friday, interesting day, later in the day, as the stuff on Tennessee versus the NCAA rolled out, Judge grants injunction in Tennessee versus NCAA as federal court freezes on NIL rules. Victory for the state of Tennessee and potentially the University of Tennessee. Also, as Ross Dellinger says, recruits and transfers can now accept, payments and all kinds of stuff. Says, quote, yes, they were already accepting inducements, but the ruling further cripples the NCAA's amateurism model, a reason that the SEC and Big Ten and the NCAA itself is examining other models. We can leave the NCAA off that. Their models don't matter. Washington Huskies wide receiver Rome Odunze, the number 3 overall player on Move the Sticks, top 50, courtesy of Ian Rappaport, and in contention to be the top wide receiver, will run and test at the Combine in Indianapolis. No Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors. Only Odunze as far as the top guys. I wonder if that will push him over the top. We'll look at the top 50 prospects also. Arizona Cardinals, it's been a weird couple years for the Arizona Cardinals with this Kyler Murray thing, but they put an infographic out earlier that says our franchise QB, and it's a big old infographic of Kyler Murray. So Kyler Murray is going to be, at least for this year, the guy moving forward for the Arizona Cardinals. Resdall says, Jake, is there a way Ole Miss will be in the NCAA playoffs? They're already scheduled to be in the Super Bowl next year. Here, Jackson Dart is sliding into Taylor Swift's DMs. I have no proof of the DM slide, but, I mean, at this point, I guess anything's on the table. Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. is likely the top wide receiver in the draft, but he's going to do it differently. He's not going to have an agent. He's going the Lamar Jackson route. No testing at the combine and no testing on pro days. It's very interesting. It's a very weird combination coming out of college for Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know if his father's going to represent him. I have no idea what's going to go on here. Also, the Bengals informed star wide receiver T. Higgins that they are franchise tagging him. So the franchise tag now officially is applied to Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins. And again, we'll get into some of this other news on top quarterbacks going to the combine and what that might look like. Also, LSU's Jaden Daniels, one of the NFL's top quarterbacks, prospects, plans to throw at his pro day rather than the combine. He'll be in Indy for meetings, interviews, no workouts, just for the QA/QC portion of the entire thing. So Penix Jr. from Washington plans to throw in front of scouts. Bo Nix will throw in front of scouts, and J.J. McCarthy will also throw in front of scouts. So you got those three. You know, obviously there's more than this. But of the top guys, Nix, Penix, McCarthy will work out, throw, do the whole thing at the combine, where you've got Daniels and Caleb Williams who will not do that. We're brought to you by our friends at Capital Orthopedic, online at capitalortho.com. Same-day appointments can be made at capitalortho.com. Also, locations include Flowood, Madison, Clinton, Brookhaven, Hazelhurst, and Kosciuszko. Move better, live better, and be better with Capital Orthopedic. 601-987-8200. Online at capitalortho.com. Monday edition of the program. We're streaming on the zone1059.com. Chris Landry coming up at 4 o'clock.
Okay, we're back.
I'm ready. It's more of the afternoon drive with Jake Wimberly, where he's live and local on Jackson Sports Authority, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, and online at thezone1059.com.
We're brought to you by Madison PTS. Bill Thomas and his group at Madison PTS here to help your athletes, baseball players, softball players, volleyball players, you name it, they can do it. That's at 316 Old Jackson Road in Gluckstadt. Go to ptssports.training to learn more today. Ask about their sports performance evaluation, also arm care programs, strength and conditioning classes, velocity enhancement. Ask about cage rentals for baseball and softball. ptssports.training, 601-898-1828. 601-898-1828. All right, let's see here. Jake from Yazoo, a beaver on a bull, never seen it, never heard of it. I'll pay to say I have, though. Yeah, we'll see if one day maybe we can do that. All right, Justin Fields, if the Bears decide to trade the number one overall pick, what kind of return could they net from a QB-needy team, shall we say? 4 hypothetical packages we'll get into that involves a recent top 10 pick. Also, with UMass and reported their move to the MAC, only 2 independents remain in college sports as far as the Division I model. That'd be Notre Dame and UConn. It's becoming more and more difficult for programs not to join a conference, especially in the expanded college football playoff era. Notre Dame's the only one that really can right now kind of navigate this whole deal. We'll see what happens with UConn. I would expect that they'll probably jump back into a conference. It could be the MAC. It very well could be the MAC. Also, a lot of talk about, obviously, storming of the field and the hurt player over the last several days. A lot of commentary on this. Alabama Athletics Director Greg Byrne believes forfeits could stop storming. You have 2 kids run out there. No. But when you have a sustained rush like what just happened the other day at Wake, you lose the game. That will get people to stop. And I would tend to agree that, if you want it to stop, that's what you're going to have to do, is because people just have no I don't even know the right words for it. I mean, they don't have any respect for other people that's out there. They just want to run and just storm the field and storm the courts, and then people get hurt, and it's just it's a bad look. Speaking of basketball, college basketball AP top 25, Houston still at number 1, Purdue 2, UConn 3, Tennessee 4, Marquette at number 5. You got Arizona, Kansas, Iowa State, North Carolina, Duke in your top 10. Some other notables: Auburn at number 11, Alabama at 14, Kentucky 16. In the SEC, you got Florida at 24, South Florida at 25, and others getting votes on that. As we start to shift and look deeper into the class of 2025 and recruiting, Bryce Underwood, quarterback out of Believeville, Michigan is the number one player on the board. He is committed to LSU. LSU quarterback commit Bryce Underwood is the number one guy for the class of 2025 right now. Also, as of Friday afternoon, the NCAA cannot control the transfer portal NIL. Athletes have free reign to negotiate collective deals. The NCAA is no more, quote, a Power 4 head football coach told On 3 there are no rules as far as the NCAA. Also, speaking about quarterbacks and the Combine coming up, the Las Vegas Raiders have an eye on Jaden Daniels, the head of the NFL Scouting Combine, per ESPN. They have a strong connection to from their Arizona State days, and Antonio Pierce was an assistant there. So it looks like the Raiders, if they could pick their guy right now, it might be Jaden Daniels. And late Friday, UCLA has, this was Friday, they hired Eric Bieniemy as its new assistant head coach and offensive coordinator per ESPN. He was most recently the OC of the Commanders and won 2 Super Bowls as the Chiefs offensive coordinator. So he heads towards college. And Auburn transfer linebacker Cam Riley has committed to NC State. NC State's going to be a really good football team this year. I don't know that they are going to have the sauce to win the ACC, but I think that they're going to be pretty darn good, if I'm being honest. And NC State, they've traditionally over the last 10 years, they've had some good football up there. But when you look at, kind of my power rankings for their NC State, 4th in that league this year, Miami, Florida State, Clemson, NC State. Recruiting-wise, when you kind of look at NC State, they're in the top half. They're, 5th on my new transfer portal / recruiting analytics that are out there. Again, we'll have all of this out in the coming weeks. Quarterback play. You look at NC State, going to be one of the top quarterbacks. Grayson McCall, who transferred over from Coastal Carolina, will be the quarterback for NC State. And you look at as far as where did he go? Oh, there he is. Middle of the pack, Dave Dorian. He's a middle of the pack guy. He's your Dave Clawson, Dave Dorian, Pat Narduzzi, Pittsburgh, Mac Brown. The ACC, Mike Norvell is kind of the head of the class right now. And, of course, you look at Dabo Swinney. He's still at the top. Jeff Brom, Louisville. Rhett Lashley at SMU. And then Mario Cristobal. So he's kind of under that realm. But, I've got NC State this year right now over the weekend going 9-3. They have a week 2 matchup against Tennessee. That'll be very interesting because both of these teams are kind of that second rung down of teams. Tennessee trying to, break in. Obviously, the phenom freshman quarterback this year is the starter. A lot expected out of Tennessee to have a big year. But NC State, Tennessee, they play second week of the season. Also, NC State plays Clemson on the road in week 4, so they'll have 2 big ball games coming up early, and then they kind of run through this thing before they go to Cal, get a bye week, and, of course, they'll play at North Carolina at the end of the year. 601-885-3776. That is the Cowboy Maloney's text line. You can make your house home today with Cowboy Maloney's 13 locations around the state. And, of course, we're brought to you by Ameristar Casino. Other stuff that is out there, Brad Crawford identifies college football's potential breakthrough teams that we will get into. All right, as we move forward here, let me see, where was that? We'll get into these stories, too, as well. NCAA president says making student-athletes employees will kill off 95% of college sports. I do not believe that one bit. And then, of course, we'll get into Daniel Jeremiah's top 50 2024 NFL draft prospects, ranking 2.0, who he has at the top. And, of course, Caleb Williams. I'm interested to hear Chris Landry talk about this. With Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels not throwing at the combine, what does that do? Or does it do anything at all? Is it a smart move? How do teams look at guys that will not compete or do not compete there at the combine? Possum Neck Joe. Jake, you and Beaver forgot about Billy Joel. John Rice Plumlee is the real piano man. Will he make an NFL roster? I say yes. What say you? He might make a roster. He's going to be a free agent. Beav, is he going to make an NFL roster? Oh, John Rice Plumlee. What do you think? You just threw him on a roster. He's like, whatever. Yeah, he'll make a roster. We'll get into that. He's not going to get drafted as a quarterback. He'll have an opportunity probably as a special teams type player, maybe a return guy, some other type of kind of a specialist. I don't know that he's going to be your quasi Taysom Hill type guy. I don't think he's big enough to do that. but he'll have an opportunity to make some hay. Nebraska, Kansas among college football teams, 2024 potentially breakthrough teams. I want to get into some of these, what they're calling, quote, breakthrough. Several teams on this list. Some I agree with, some I do not agree with. Again, what defines a breakthrough? Is it competing for your conference championship, or is it doing something that if you go from 3 wins to, say, 6 wins or 8 wins? And I will tell you this, after going through schedules over the weekend, I do have Colorado going 6-6. So I have Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes bowling this year. There's enough movement in the schedule where they can do that in this new Big 12. And after going through the weekend, the Big 12 is about as dicey as I thought it would be, or could be. And we'll see how that plays out over the course of the year. We're brought to you by our friends at Sound Communications, online at soundcomav.com. Collaborate, design, build with Sound Communications. They've been around since 1955. Let them help you in your office, church, or place of worship, school, government, or medical facility. SoundComAV.com. Back in a bit.
It's the home of the Chuck Oliver Show every weekday from 10 till noon on Mississippi's live and local sports authority. And where? We're back to Jake Wimberly with the afternoon drive on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
We're brought to you by the MHSAA. Officially become official today with the MHSAA. 601-924-6400. Online at MISSHSAA.com. And, of course, we'll have the 2024 MHSAA Basketball Championships here on your radio. Coming up starting Thursday afternoon, all day Friday, 10 a to 12 midnight or whatever it is. And then same way on Saturday. So Beaver's getting ready mentally to pull that up. Let's see here. John Rice Plumlee. Joe asked about John Rice. 2024 NFL draft class, of course, is pretty darn deep, right? And when you look at John Rice Plumlee, 6 foot, 200 pounds, quarterback, Central Florida, says the very least Plumlee may be one of the most intriguing quarterback prospects in the draft. Plumlee played outfielder for the Knights baseball team, and of course, will be prepping to play quarterback. Let me do this real quick. All right, and let's see here. As a true freshman, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. I'm just trying to get where they say Plumlee scouting report. There we go. Strengths, elite creative threat with springy athleticism and instant explosiveness in the open field. I like that. Brisk agility. Legitimate vertical speed at the second level. Extending runs. Has a decent arm. Let's see. Does it give me weaknesses? Below average size. As a creator, lack of high-end mass limits his contact balance and play strength. Current projection, Plumlee grades out as a late round or potential free agent. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably going to be – somebody may take a shot with him on the seventh round, but it looks like it's going to be more for preferred free agent. 601-897-1059. That is the Malone Roofing caller line. ecmalone.com is their website. And, of course, 8337-MALONE. You can always text us 601-885-3776 if you got a question or comment. All right, let me move back forward. So, Joe, there's your answer on John Rice. I like whoever broke this down, though. Can be indecisive when working across progressions, needs more high-end speed. More high-end speed. So that's John Rice Plumlee. And I don't know that he's going to be at the combine or not. I got to get the full list here. We'll get the full list. Let's go to Gator Matt. Matt, happy Monday. How are you?
What's up, man? John Rice Plumlee. I think he's going to make it in the NFL. Somebody like him with his speed, he'll find something somewhere. Doesn't he kind of remind? Who's the little white kid that played for New England for all them years?
You talking about Wes Welker?
No. Who's the other little short guy?
Who was that, Beaver?
God,
Welker, and then
little slot receiver. It might have been Wes Welker.
Amendola? Was it Amendola?
I don't know. You know, Brady had all these utility players around him. It didn't matter. Beaver could have been on that team. And, and they they probably would have succeeded.
A lot of them came out of the
had all these guys,
lacrosse game.
these nobodies. I don't know. It wasn't Gronk anyway, but I think Plumlee will be in the NFL for a long time. Jake, give me your top 4 at the end of the season for the SEC. That's what I want to get into.
And what?
Now that the dust is starting to settle in football.
Oh.
The top 4 at the end of the season. Because we don't have divisions. No divisions. And let me tell you, the scheduling now plays such a part. It's not like no east to west to hide from. You can't hide anymore. Georgia, Tennessee. I mean, it's wide open now. And it's just the top. But at the end of the year, who are the top 4? I mean, I guess we could talk about who's going to be in the championship game. But who are the top 4? I'll give you mine.
Go ahead.
No particular order, but I'll put Ole Miss first. Wink, wink. Okay?
All right.
I'll go ahead and put Georgia in there. I'll put Georgia. And I'm going to say Texas. And as much as I hate to say this, I'm going to put Auburn in there. I just have a feeling. I don't know. I could be wrong. I think LSU's trash. It's over, as we've already said 1,000 times for Alabama. It's over. And then somebody hates Florida in the scheduling department. But we'll hang up and listen. See ya.
See ya. 601-885-3776. That is the text line. Of course, you can call us 601-897-1059. Top 4 teams in the SEC. Now I feel really confident about this. Feel really, really confident about this. Texas and Georgia at the top. They're the class. I think they are the class this year. I think they will play twice in 2024. I think they will split their ball games. Pick one. It doesn't matter. Texas wins in Austin. Georgia wins the championship. Georgia wins in Austin. Texas wins the championship. They're going to split. Then I go Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is the 3rd best team in the league. And then I think Tennessee is the 4th best team in the league. Followed by LSU, Oklahoma, and Auburn. Matt mentioned Auburn. It's the top 7. If you want to go top 8, throw Texas A&M in there. And yes, I have Alabama on the other side of that. I have Alabama at 8-4. Florida, Matt, I have them going 2-10, 3-9. No better than 4-7 or 4-8. It's going to be a bad year for Florida. It's going to be looking for a football coach. Why don't Florida go after Chadwell over there at Liberty? That dude's won everywhere he's been. But yeah, I got Texas, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee as my top 4 in the SEC. All right, let's see here. Buffalo Chris. Julian Edelman. Got 2 for Edelman on the guy he was looking for, Res Dog. John Rice Plumlee won't play anything but piano after the draft. You know, if I had to guess a guy that he reminds me of, Michael Spurlock. Remember Spurlock played quarterback at Ole Miss? Made it in the NFL. He's a kick returner, special teams guy. Kind of a niche. Do you say niche or niche? Niche. I'm going to say niche. Niche type player. Niche player. Could make it on special. He's not a, maybe you have him in a quote package, which I hate that term anyway, where he comes in and he's a guy once a year that's going to throw a backwards pass. But he's maybe got a spot. Maybe. Dexter. Plumlee could be more of a Taysom Hill type. I can't put him as Taysom Hill because he's not big like Taysom Hill, right? I mean, Taysom Hill's a guy you can line up at tight end. You can line him up in the backfield. You can line him up in the slot. Is John Rice Plumlee, can you put him in a Taysom Hill deal? Shaking your head, no. No Taysom Hill. Rebel Greg. Steve Tasker. Man, I haven't heard that name. You remember Steve Tasker? That's going to bring you out on the mic. What do you think about Steve Tasker? What year did he play? Was that early?
That was early 90s. I remember him.
Steve Tasker. He had the big helmet, didn't he? Wasn't his helmet always bigger than everybody else's? Buffalo Bills?
I don't remember his. Yep. I don't remember his helmet specifically, though.
Seemed like for some reason Tasker had a bigger helmet than everybody else. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Greg, that's great. I like that. Possum Neck Joe. Thank you, Jake. Beeve, give me the pff on JRP. And unnamed texter, Matt is an idiot. We're off and running on a Monday. What do you got? You got anything on Tasker's helmet?
It just looks like a helmet.
I don't know why I thought for some reason his helmet was always bigger than everybody else's. Like he had the safety helmet before there was a safety helmet. But yes, my top 4 teams in the SEC: Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. A lot of optimism in Norman, Oklahoma. Also, we'll see what LSU does. Auburn, they've got to get their quarterback situation right. Texas A&M, they're going to be Texas A&M. Alabama, and of course, a lot of people are high on Missouri. I've got Missouri going 8-4 this year. They could go 9-3. What you got over there? Anything? Missouri at 9-3, 8-4, and then down the run we go. Dexter. That was Greg Kelso with the big helmet. I think you're right. Was it? Yes, I think you're right. I think it was one of those guys with the big helmet. All right. 247sports.com. Nebraska, Kansas among college football teams for breakout teams. What do you got over there?
Sure was. Look at this guy.
Who is that?
Kelso.
That's who I'm thinking of. He did. For some reason, he had I knew it was a Buffalo player. Why did he have that oversized helmet? That always was weird to me back when I was watching him as a kid. I didn't know if it was I had no idea. No idea, but he had a bigger helmet, much bigger helmet than the rest of the team. Several programs outside of the early college football playoff projections deserve more love ahead of spring practice to be considered in the, quote, breakout label from 247. Teams cannot be ranked inside the top 15 for the 247 Sports rankings ahead of the spring practice. Moreover, teams coming off conference championship seasons were ineligible as well, despite falling out under the outside the top 15 distinction like Florida State. So we'll get into some of these after the break. Who could make a run, and maybe 8 teams that they have under the radar could be a thorn in the side of the perceived favorites this year. We are brought to you by our friends at Burgers Blues Barbecue. 3 locations: Brandon, Madison, new location in Flowood. Breakfast in Madison and Flowood. Get out in Flowood. Enjoy the Flowood location and the other 2. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner at Madison and Madison and Flowood. Lunch and dinner, Brandon location as well. Burgers Blues Barbecue. Find them on their website. Also Facebook and Instagram. Back with more in just a bit.
And action! We got that and a whole lot more around here. It's the Afternoon Drive with Jake Wimberly.
What's the score?
He's got that, along with the hottest sports stories of the day on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
We're brought to you by Ashley Howie, Crown Lake Realtors, 769-226-3782. Facebook.com/Ashley Howie Realtor if you're looking to buy, sell, or relocate. We're also brought to you by Ameristar Casino. Get the bet builder, and you can get out and play college baseball, college basketball, the NBA, also futures in Major League Baseball, futures in the NFL, and futures in college football. All the stuff you need at Ameristar Casino. Right now, you can get... if you believe in them, 49ers, they are the favorite to win the Super Bowl by just a little bit. 5.5 to 1, Chiefs 6.5 to 1. And if you want to get in on some early college football, you can get in on some early college football. I know there will be a lot of money in this state played on Ole Miss this year. A lot of money. Ole Miss right now 11 to 1. 5th best odds to win the national title right there with Alabama. And again, I told you last week, for the first time in a long, long time, maybe forever, I think Ole Miss, those 11-1s are not the same. If I had to play one of those, I'm playing Ole Miss. I'm not playing Alabama. Playing Ole Miss. You can get Georgia. They're the leader in the clubhouse, 3.5 to 1. Ohio State 2 at 5.5 to 1. Texas, Oregon. You get LSU at 14 to 1 if you believe in them. Notre Dame at 14 to 1. Charlie Boy on the Cowboy Maloney's text line. The caller might have been thinking of Edelman for the Patriots. Yeah, I'm not sure who Matt was talking about. There was several of those guys. And if you remember, Belichick went into the lacrosse world to pick up a couple of those guys. Res Dog, that's because his body was smaller than everyone else on the field. You talking about John Rice Plumlee? And Rebel Greg, I think that was the player that ran down the Dallas Cowboys scoop and score and knocked the ball loose from behind on the 2-yard line. Tasker, that is. I think you're right. You may be right on that, Greg. All right, some of these teams, and we'll have Chris Landry coming up in the next segment. We'll go through a lot of these quarterbacks and what's going on at the combine, all this stuff. And my good friend Cliff said that he hopes my top 4 SEC teams are wrong. So, yeah, I have Georgia and Texas and Ole Miss and Tennessee right there at the top. That would be my top 4. All right, teams that could surprise a little bit. South Florida is getting a lot of love in the offseason, and rightfully so. I mean, this is a really good, a nice South Florida team. You could pick any group of 5 team with a quality roster that'll have a shot at striking gold, but there's a potential contender not named Liberty. Boise State, Tulane, or Memphis flying under the radar. At South Florida, this is the only group of 5 program that signed a top 50 recruiting class, and Byron Brown returns at quarterback after tallying 4,101 yards of total offense and 38 touchdowns last fall. Now, how good is Byron Brown? Well, let's look, because I chalked through – what I'm telling you, man, I put through a lot of work over the weekend on this stuff. And let's go over here and look at quarterbacks for 2024. And when you go into the group of 5, and the way I break up quarterbacks is, there's a group of 5 – and then obviously the Power 5. And I separate the two in rankings. And then, you can look at a collective, but not all things are equal, right? Because you take Caden Salter at Liberty. He's my top group of 5 quarterback for 2024. Liberty has a very good shot of going undefeated and being that team, that 12 seed in the expanded playoff. My number 1 quarterback in Power 5 is Dylan Gabriel at Oregon, by just a little bit, over Chandler Rogers and Shedeur Sanders. Chandler Rogers at Cal. So, but it's hard to compare the two, so I break them out because Liberty's schedule obviously is much different than those in the Power 5. But anyway, South Florida, their quarterback, Byron Brown, I have as the 6th best quarterback in the group of 5 this year. App State's Joey Aguilar is my number 2 guy. He put up some monster numbers last year. Seth Hannigan from Memphis at number 3. Brett Gabbert at Miami of Ohio, and then Caleb Elby, Western Michigan. Then you got Byron Brown, one of the best in the country. But he's a big reason South Florida's getting a lot of love. He threw 38 touchdowns, or had 38 total touchdowns last year. Top wideout Sean Atkins is back, as well as set various single-season school records as a junior. Now, they'll probably be in the championship game in the AAC with Memphis, but they're there. I mean, they're a team that everything goes right. And don't forget this, too, now. This is a South Florida team. If we look into scheduling for next year or this coming year, Alabama went down and lost a close one, or won a close one, excuse me. They play South Florida in the second week. They'll host them in Tuscaloosa. But South Florida is not going to be scared of Alabama. My God, could you imagine South Florida walking into Tuscaloosa and beating Kalen DeBoer in week 2? What in the world? That whole thing over there would just go sideways. South, quick. All right, SMU. SMU, formerly the AAC, they move into the ACC now. And SMU could be a noisemaker in the ACC if the Mustangs escape a front-loaded schedule, including matchups with TCU, Florida State, and Louisville. Preston Stone was one of the top football passers as a sophomore, 28 touchdowns, 3,197 yards. The personnel at skill position around him as well is changing a bit, but the air raid scheme that they run works, and it should be one of the better in the ACC. Now, if I go over here and look at SMU and the newly ACC, right now, I mean, SMU is a middle-of-the-pack team as far as my power rankings concerned. I mean, they're right there. If you look at middle of the pack, that's going to be Virginia Tech, Cal, SMU, Georgia Tech. Pittsburgh starts to fall off at that point. But quarterback-wise, absolutely correct. SMU, Preston Stone, I have him as my 3rd best ACC quarterback. Number 1, Chandler Rogers, California. Number 2, Grayson McCall, both transfer quarterbacks. Followed by Preston Stone, Cam Ward at Miami, Kyle McCord, Syracuse, DJ Uiagalelei, Florida State. That's my top 6. And then throw in Kyron Drones from Virginia Tech. He's an absolute stud at Virginia Tech. He put up monster numbers last year for the Hokies. But when I look at SMU this year and the expanded role in the ACC, I have them going 8-4 this year. They do have a really front-loaded schedule. They'll play BYU early, second week. They get a bye week. They take on TCU. That's the big rivalry there in Dallas. Florida State is their first game that they will play. They will host Florida State at Louisville, get another break, and then the schedule lightens up a little bit. At Stanford, at Duke, Pitt, Boston College, at Virginia, and Cal. So, I mean, this is a really good SMU program. I think that they will be better along the way. And I don't know that they're ready to compete for the ACC this year, but we'll see. Texas Tech, it seems like every year Texas Tech is going to get a lot of love. Bell cows like Taj Brooks, returns in the backfield. 1,541 yards, five-star freshman wide receiver Micah Hudson. You know, they've got a really, really good set of skill talent. The problem for Texas Tech, let me say this. The blessing for Texas Tech and everybody in the Big 12 is Oklahoma and Texas is gone. But Texas Tech this year, in my Big 12 power rankings, 6th. I've got Utah 1, Central Florida 2, TCU. I've got Colorado at 4, believe it or not, after working through all this. Baylor 5, Texas Tech 6. Now, obviously, you got to throw in Kansas State. They're right there. Kansas is right there. Iowa State's right there. It's a very, very tight there, top to bottom here in the Big 12. But for Texas Tech, I've got going 8-4. They've got a pretty loose schedule early. Abilene Christian at Washington State, North Texas, Arizona State, Cincinnati, and then at Arizona. I mean, they could go undefeated in that stretch. Then they pick it up a little bit. Baylor, TCU on the road, Iowa State on the road, and Colorado before finishing it out with Oklahoma State and West Virginia. I mean, in terms of schedules, this would be the easiest schedule in the Southeastern Conference. 100% the easiest schedule in the Southeastern Conference. Oh, let's see here real quick. Monkeys riding dogs. What about James Madison? They lost their coach, right? Yes, James Madison coach. He sorry about that. I missed that. Monkeys riding dogs. He has gone on to. I can't remember exactly where he's at. Troy? Let me look. But yes, James Madison did lose their coach, but they supposedly got another good one coming up the ranks there. We're brought to you by our friends at Clinton Body Shop, 601-924-2159, OEM factory certified. All the manufacturers you trust, go to ClintonBodyShop.com. Your family's safety and your cause value. Most important things at Clinton Body Shop. Chris Landry up next.
The number you have reached.
WRKS Pickens Jackson. From college football to the NFL to high school football. 365 days a year. Hear it all on Jackson Sports Authority. Live and local at 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com. Now let's get back to the afternoon drive with Jake Wimberly.
Hour 2 on a Monday, streaming on the zone1059.com, brought to you by Mississippi Legends Grill. Get out, see George and the team this week. Bingo, trivia, kids eat free Thursday, catfish Friday, fried chicken Friday. Everyone knows your name. A lot of TVs. Get a Michelob Ultra Bud Light. Please drink responsibly, courtesy of Southern Beverage. Facebook.com/Mississippi Legends Grill if you want the lunch special of the day. Hey, if you want football specials, our next guest can get them for you. That's Chris Landry. You go to LandryFootball.com. And, of course, Landry Football on X, college, NFL, in the lines, outside the lines, everything you need. Of course, Chris is en route or maybe they're now getting ready for the NFL Combine. Chris, welcome in, sir. How are you?
Jake, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing good. Just kind of chalking through some of these quarterbacks at the Combine and some notes. What is your schedule through all of this madness here in the next few weeks?
Well, here this next week, couple of days, or the workouts start on Thursday, but we got some scouting meetings. I'm on a couple of boards, so the scouting combines are like a convention. So everybody in the NFL's here. I mean, the trainers have their convention here this week. The video directors, the team doctors, the agents have them. So the player personnel director meetings, boards that I'm on, will be discussing some things pertinent to that, and it's just done because everybody's here. So that a lot of meetings, and then obviously the players begin to come in, even though they're starting to work out on Thursday. They come in a little bit. The groups that work out on Thursday get in, and there'll be a lot of interviews with the teams and whatnot, and then they run them through what's called kind of the car wash, I guess, for the media. It's kind of changed. When I was running it, it was a little different. We didn't have the media in, and we kind of got them in, in and out quicker. Now they stay here longer, and they take part of the media. And I think a lot of it has to do, Jake, with the advent of the NFL Network. When that started,
Sure.
10, 12 years ago, they said, hey, this is great sell and great marketing for the NFL. So from a marketing standpoint, it's good. probably we get less out of it as football people than we used to because it's a little bit more, as I like to call it, dog and pony show than it used to be. And, just kind of the way it's gone.
Chris, I've got a lot of questions about the combine. I just love this time of year. This is, I call it hope season because that's kind of what it is, right? I mean, it's like recruiting in college, but this is the NFL. So, this transition for players to the next level. Let me ask you this. First off, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels are not going to throw or work out at the combine. They've chosen possible pro days. Marvin Harrison Jr. says, "Hey, I'm not throwing. I'm not going to have an agent. I'm not working out." Public perception, they look at something like that and go, "Wow, that's not good." From a scouting, front office, inside the building type deal, is that a positive? Is that a negative? Or is it kind of just it's a nothing burger?
It's more the latter. I mean, it was a problem when they first started to do it. Now everybody does it. It's kind of like, remember when I think Christian McCaffrey might have been the first big name to say he's not playing in the bowl game. Remember he wasn't playing in the Sun Bowl, and people, oh my God, And now, what's reaction when people say they're not going to play there? Now they're like, oh wow, so and so's going to play. It's part of what's happened. First of all, let me say this: when we started the combine back in 1982. There's one reason we did it, and it's still 95% of the reason that we're here. And you will not hear or even see anything about this on TV. It's the medical physicals. That's the only reason why we started the combine. That's it. Period. Stop. End of discussion. Once we had them there, we said, well, let's maybe put them through a few drills. So all of what's kind of built of that, if players don't work out, I don't like it. I wish they would compete and work out. But if all the players came and all they did was took their medicals and left, it's worth its weight in gold. It is the number 1, the number 2, the number 3, the number 4, the number 5 most important thing. It's it. I can't stress it more than that. But that's not what people talk about. And because we have workouts, we'd want them to work out. I tell guys all the time, yeah, you can do what you want, but you're not fooling us. So if you do, for example, you want to bulk up and you do your lifting here, but then you're going to lose 15 pounds and then run when you're lighter, well, we didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday. We know that means you're going to run differently, and we have to convert all the time. The agents are telling them, don't do this, don't do that. Now the big thing this year, we were discussing it today, now they don't want to take the intelligence test. And look, for some reason, somebody has leaked that information and it's got out to the press, which is, to me, abhorrent. I mean, you don't give that information out. So there's a lot of, I won't do this, I won't do that. Look, if you're going to work out at your pro day, I tell guys this, and they ask, look, if you work out here, and you do everything well, you can breathe easy. Everybody in the league has seen you, and you don't need to do anything on your pro day. You don't work out here. You're going to go on your pro day. You better be faster. Your workout better be infinitely better. And you know what? I don't care if you're who you are. You're going to have, maybe a tenth of the people in the league seeing you. Why? Because they're going to be pro days at USC and Michigan and Clemson on the same day. I mean, everybody has to spread out. Every scout, every coach, a couple of them know Mike McCarthy's not going. I don't want to digress. Just about everybody's there, including all the doctors, trainers, owners, what have you. Now, what's happened over the years is some of this is like we've got some coaches, like Mike McCarthy's not gone. He's helping Mike Zimmer put in the new defense. It's becoming, because of this and because they're not working out as much and the interviews are being cut and all that, some people are electing not to come, which tells you, kind of where it's headed. But yeah, look, I want guys to compete and work out. Am I gonna not draft the guy because it didn't work out? No. But I also tell them, if you have a awful pro day, I'm going to go back to the tape. Here's the thing. The workouts don't tell you how good a football player he is. The tape and the 2, 3, 4 years that he's played in college does. The tape helps you to affirm what you see with the workout and vice versa. It's when the tape and the film doesn't match, which is only about 8-10% of the time. That's when you got to go back and say, oh, let me go look at Jake again. Why doesn't the tape and the workout match? And then that helps. So it helps you to understand, and a lot of things are misunderstood. The intelligence test doesn't tell you whether you're intelligent. It just tells you how you learn. So, so like C.J. Stroud, quote unquote, didn't test well. It didn't affect it, but people in the media have come out and said, oh, well, you see it, those tests doesn't matter. It does matter because during the test, you learn how he learns. He's not as much of a reading visual learner. He's much of an auditory learner. Anybody that's been at school knows that every teacher, they do tests like this. Some have to hear it. Some have to see it on the board. Some just like to read it. These tests help you to learn going in what a guy is and what he does and how he best learns. The medical stuff is, so all of those things are important, but it doesn't make or break it. And it can help a guy more than it can hurt him. So I guess if you've got 20 guys that really help themselves and the others don't, well, then maybe you could say that the ones that they didn't hurt themselves, but they didn't help themselves, maybe there's something lost there. I think that's fair, which is why I tell everybody, go work out. Go screw up your workout. Go compete. Doesn't matter. We can have the workout on the campus, and you can do it better. But if you only do it once, man, and you don't run well or you pull a hamstring, there's going to be some questions. And it might make the difference between you going 9th and 25th. I mean, you just don't know because it's not that you're holding it against a guy, but if you've got more information and more certainty about player A that you are interested in hiring or drafting, well, you're going to be more comfortable than maybe the guy that, that maybe doesn't do all the things.
Chris, is the NFL looking to get rid of the intelligence test? Did I hear that correctly? Or is that a push from the media?
It's a lot of push, and I think there's a lot of talk. A lot of these unions, it's labor unions, and I don't want to get into what we're in society. I think, sure. I think the problem to me is that we need to find who the heck, and I think it's got to be coming from. I mean, it could be a player agent trying to hurt another player. I don't know, but it has to emanate. I'm going to tell you, when I was with the Oilers and Titans, there's only one person that had, our general manager, and not even the owner had the access to the information. We didn't share it. Somebody inside an organization, I believe, is sharing it, and I think it's sometimes nefarious to try to maybe manipulate who could be there and whatnot. I think you still need to know about a player's capacity to learn and willingness to learn. And maybe the certain tests, I think certain tests are not very good, and I think others that are. How a guy learns is critical, particularly at, the more critical positions like quarterback. Don't tell me that it's not important how you got to teach the guy. Now he's got to learn. Even on defense, the complexities of being able to learn it, all those things are very important. But how you do it and what tests you use, I think that can be debated which ones are more useful than others. So there is a lot of discussions about where we need to go with it.
Chris Landry on your radio, Monday edition of the program, talking Combine. Good stuff on the Combine. We'll get to some specific players in segment 2. We're brought to you by BCIPeople.com, 601-427-4185. Begin your protection plan today. Back in just a bit.
Turning to sports with Jake Wimberly on the Afternoon Drive.
One of the last pure pleasures I have left in my life.
Yeah, maybe you ought to get a life first, okay? On ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
Monday edition of the program brought to you by Maristar Casino. Get out and play. We're also brought to you by the MT Insurance Group. Call Matt today, 601-594-3540. That's 601-594-3540. Let MT Insurance Group shop quotes on your auto, home, or business. Chris Landry, segment 2, on the way to the Combine. Got a lot of work coming up in his camp over the next several weeks as they continue to chalk through everything in 2024. Chris, I want to ask you about some of these quarterbacks. Not the ones that are, coming off the board, probably one or two, like Drake May and Caleb Williams. We'll see what happens with Jaden Daniels. A lot of buzz around J.J. McCarthy. Me and Beaver have been joking and cutting up about this just because Beaver's not sold on McCarthy. Harbaugh obviously vouched for McCarthy, and I'm paraphrasing, called him just a few weeks ago, hey, he's the best quarterback in the class. He's, best quarterback ever at Michigan. You're starting to see a lot of, at least, and you explained this to us well last year about, the media side versus what's really going on behind closed doors. J.J. McCarthy, are you buying or selling? What does he bring to the table? Is the buzz real?
Competitor. He's smart. I think he's a leader. I think what you're seeing, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he goes somewhere late first round. Here's what will happen, and it happens every year. The quarterback, the draft and player evaluation and acquisition in particular is no different than any profession. It's supply and demand. There are not enough quality quarterbacks. So you have guys, and McCarthy would be one of them, that, might be a good player at the next level that might develop. Any chance that a guy has, he's going to be, his stock's going to rise. It is. It just happens every year. There's just not enough of them. Is he in the category of a Jaden Daniels? No, in my opinion. I think Michael Penix has got a lot of ability. I think you'll see 5, and I wouldn't be surprised maybe 6 quarterbacks go in the first round just because supply and demand. And remember, there's only going to be anywhere from 18 to 22 second-round graded players in any draft. We got 32 picks in the first round, so you can figure that there are 10 to 12. Maybe as much as 14 players that will be drafted in the first round with predominantly second-round grades around the league. So just do the math. Anybody with second-round, we'll take them in the second round. You can't take them in the second round. Guys with second-round grades, the quarterbacks are going to go to the top of the list. So you're going to have, by just pure math, a dozen to 14 second-round graded players go in the first round. So I think McCarthy will be one of them. But I think the reason why is people are talking about him, the success they had this year, and I think maybe people just like to move on to different stories. They've talked Caleb Williams and Drake May and probably Jaden Daniels a bunch. You're going to see more talk about Michael Penix and J.J. McCarthy just because people are looking for something different to talk about.
Chris Landry talking Senior Bowl, NFL, future quarterbacks. LandryFootball.com, also on X at Landry Football. Spencer Rattler, another one that's intriguing to me because, a couple years ago he was projected by, the focuses out there and all the NFL think tanks as the number one prospect on the board. That summer he was at Oklahoma. Things went south. Lincoln Riley turned to Caleb Williams. The rest is history. But then he comes back, has a really good Senior Bowl. Now he's starting to get some buzz behind him. Does he have a future in the league?
Well, same thing. He'll get a chance. And how successful he'll be, we'll see. I think a lot of it depends on where he goes, how he's developed. I think somebody like him that will be drafted outside of the first round, maybe in the right situation where he can sit and develop. See, a lot of these guys, whether they make it and how successful they are, is in direct correlation to the situation that they're in. What's the talent around them? Is there coaching stability? That's how you develop. You can kind of sit and learn a little bit. And I think he could find himself in a situation where if he is in that type of situation, he may have a better chance than somebody that's thrown to the wolves, so to speak. It's also one of the reasons and it drives me nuts when these guys that do these things of these high school prospects. Oh, yeah, he's a future first-round pick. You don't know who the heck. That's so far down the road. I mean, most of those guys don't even pan out in college. A lot of the physical skills, it's very easy. It's how a guy develops and how motivated is he. Everybody says they're motivated, but, it's not what you say, it's what you do. I want to see Spencer in a better coached environment and see if he can become more proficient in being able to see the field, make better decisions, because I think the inconsistency is a problem. But I think there are reasons for that beyond just his issues that he has to deal with.
Chris, I would never hold you to this, just for fun. And then there's always one or two.
Mm-hmm.
Who are we sleeping on? Is it Sam Hartman coming out of Notre Dame? Is it potentially Leary, who had a very yawning performance at Kentucky? Is it possibly Joe Milton still gets a lot of love? Maybe the light bulb comes on for him finally. Bo Nix, maybe a Michael Pratt. Who are we kind of sleeping on here? One or two guys.
Well, I think that Michael Penix has a chance to be special. So that's someone that would be a player that maybe people. If I told you, and I'm not saying this is the case, if I tell you he was the best quarterback out of this draft, when we look back in 3 years from now, that wouldn't surprise me. Now, it doesn't. I don't expect him to go that high. I don't think he moves quite as well. But his ability, his natural instincts to get the ball to spots, I think he's still more of a pocket guy. But that's someone that I think people don't realize just how good he is. I think he's not good. I think he's great. So he would be somebody that I would say that maybe people are sleeping on to some degree, because I think people know who he is. In terms of, I'm not crazy about Joe Milton. I would say that somebody like Jordan Travis, might be somebody that would have a chance to be developed down the road. I think Sam Hartman can be a serviceable guy. I think Michael Pratt had some abilities. You mentioned those guys. I would also say that in the right system, I think Bo Nix would be a guy that in most drafts would be given a lot more play. I think he's got the right type of pedigree and the work ethic to be developed. You put him with a guy like a Sean Payton, you could have something special. So I would say the two former Pac-12 guys, Bo Nix and Michael Penix, that are guys that you know of. The under-the-radar guys that just have some ability, I don't think they're going to make it. A Carter Bradley out of South Alabama is intriguing, but I don't think he's going to make it. I mentioned Jordan Travis. I definitely would not put Joe Milton in that list. I do not. Guys that are that inaccurate will never make it. I wouldn't be comfortable with him in the UFL, much less the NFL. But we'll see.
Before we get you out of here, I guess two questions. One, I got a question from a listener about Dayton Wade. He's an Ole Miss wide receiver. He caught 55 balls, 830 yards, 4 touchdowns. Receiver is so deep now. I mean, there are good ones all over the place. You take a guy like Wade, who was second on the list, only one catch behind Trey Harris for Ole Miss.
Right.
Those types of guys, though, I mean, I don't want to say they're a dime a dozen, but, man, there's a lot of good receivers to pick from.
Exactly. It's supply and demand. It's like the conversation they have about running backs. Well, the running backs are not important. No. They're every bit as important as they always have been. The difference is there are more of them. So what I talk about, supply and demand. Well, if you've got 15 guys that could maybe do certain things, some that are a little bit better blockers, some are a little bit better receivers, some are a little bit better inside runners, some that are a little bit better in space. Well, they're more fungible. There are more guys that you can go. I mean, it's like anything else. If you've got 2 airlines, you're going to get gouged for your plane ticket. But if they've got 20, the price is going to come down, and anything in the consumer. So there's a lot of receivers. It's the game of football from the high school level on up is you have a lot more of those guys. So they're not enough roster spots to where it's going to be very difficult to differentiate for those type of guys, backs and receivers. But, quarterbacks, it's not the case, not the real good ones. And to me, the big guys, the big premier, pass rushers, interior defensive linemen, offensive tackles, those guys, they are hard. The supply and demand factor are in favor of the players. There are not enough of them. But receivers are not. I think the young man will be somebody will be in a camp, maybe a late pick. But when you start looking at and stacking them all up, there's a whole bunch of guys, you're right, that kind of look alike.
Make sure to get him on X, Landry Football, also LandryFootball.com, as he'll have you teed up for the NFL Combine, all kinds of NFL and college. Chris, I appreciate your time. Look, have a great week. We'll talk next week. We'll talk through some more of this. I do appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you for having me as always. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Chris Landry on your radio, brought to you by Cowboy Maloney's. Get over to their website, cowboymaloney's.com, for more information. And, of course, 13 locations to serve you here in the state of Mississippi. Also, Wednesday is the last day for Stretch Your Tax Refund Dollars. Buy more, save more, up to $1,000 in rebates available on great deals on all the appliance models from Cafe to Frigidaire, Electrolux, Whirlpool, Maytag, Samsung, Sharp, and many, many more. Also, consumer electronics, bedding, and more. Go to cowboymaloney's.com. Back in a bit.
It's time to get
Back in the game.
with Jake Wimberly and the Afternoon Drive.
That's entertainment.
On the station that specializes in the Mississippi sports you love.
Now we're talking.
Live and local on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
Appreciate Chris Landry jumping in. We'll get that on the podcast this week. Go to Apple, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play. Search Jake Wimberly, The Jake Wimberly Show from last week. You can get in, and, of course, we'll have this week as well. Hey, we're brought to you by Janney King. They are the king of cleans. Go to JanneyKingCleans.com. That's Janney King Cleans with an S.com. Let them help you today. Stay clean, stay healthy in your work environment, medical facilities, schools, churches, venues, you name it, they can do it. Go to JanneyKingCleans.com, and I can tell you they can do it 100%. Back during COVID, I know Beaver probably remembers this, 2020, gosh, that seems like 10 years ago. I think we had Janney King in here 5 different times in 2020. 5 different times. They did a great job. Great job. And they are on the short list if an event happens or something needs to happen. All right, let's see. Appreciate Chris jumping in. We'll get Doug Kyle, a little baseball update at 5:15. Tim, Jake, y'all always do a great job, but not a word about State stomping LSU over the weekend. Be fair. Tim, it's a 3-hour show. Hang in there. Do you have a breakdown of this LSU basketball game for Tim? I know that now you're in full basketball mode, and I know you're combing through all of this data for March Madness.
Oh, you know me. Neat win against a team that has a losing conference record and is one game over 500 overall.
Josh Hubbard drops 32 over the weekend, as he has done a great job. Tolu Smith, 19 points. Also, Keyshawn Murphy, 11. So 3 dogs in double digits. You look at Mississippi State. Again, SEC basketball. There it is. Standings. As far as basketball, State now in the 8-6, 19-8. They've won 5 in a row. The Dogs have won 5 in a row. Now they get Kentucky this week. Are we off the air for that early? What time is the ball game?
Oh yeah, we're 5:30 pregame
tomorrow. So we'll go 2 hours tomorrow. 5:30 pregame. Dogs are 11-2 at home. Cats are 5-3 on the road. State now 2-6 on the road. They were over and have won I think back-to-back SEC ball games. Missouri, LSU. They're 6-0 in neutral site ball games. And what's interesting about this? State has, now this ought to make you feel pretty good about State as far as the SEC tournament is concerned, maybe, and the NCAA tournament. State has the best neutral site record in the Southeastern Conference at 6-0. South Carolina's 3-0. Now, some of these are not the same. Like, for instance, Kentucky at 2-1. I would assume that's going to be some pretty good competition early in the year. Tennessee, we know, played some pretty good competition as well, 2-2. South Carolina's 3-0 on the neutral site. And, I'm not worried about Georgia and the rest of them. Let's see here. And the unnamed texter asking about Dayton Wade. Yeah, I mean, Chris said later round pick. There are so many receivers and so many good ones. I mean, there's a lot of need for receivers. I mean, you think about in the NFL, some programs will take organizations, 7, 8, 9, depending on what you mean. Remember, you only got a 53-man roster, so you can't just front load with 11, 12. A lot of receivers. Possum Neck Joe. You can text us 601-885-3776. That is the Cowboy Maloney's text line. Colorado will be, talking about the Buffaloes, 2-4 or 3-3 at best after 6 games. Deion sees the writing on the wall and gets Shador to take a dive. He blames the season on his injury. It was all about getting his boys in D1 to the NFL. He quits due to medical reasons, then follows his kid around the NFL, bugging us on Sundays. Wow, Joe has just predicted his prediction of what's going to happen over the next year for Deion and Shador. What do you think about this?
Sure. Might as well I like this, how he's mapped out the entire future for this. Reminds me of this thing I watched just yesterday. I thought it was so ridiculous because it was Sunday. I was not doing anything. Came across this thing on YouTube. Some dude, it was like a 12-minute video. What I think would have happened if Kurt Cobain had not died. This man was making up. I think he would have released his first solo record on March 3rd, 1996. The first single, Talk to Me, hit number 1. What? So getting very specific. So Joe's inventing this too. But I like Joe's much better than that I just described.
Well, was that other guy on the Cobain thing? Was he in Casey Kasem's voice? Because that would have made it much better.
No. No one's Casey Kasem.
No, of course they're not. Not at all. So I don't know that they take a... Here's the thing. Shedeur has a chance to be, believe it or not, this is true, top quarterback in the NFL draft next year. So I don't know. You know, when I look at the top quarterbacks in Power 5, I have Dylan Gabriel number 1. All of these are metric driven. Just for, I guess you could say, a benchmark. He has a grade. I grade him 31.7. That's the top in Power 5. Chandler Rogers, California, number 2, 28.3. Shedeur Sanders, 28.2. You've got your Grayson McCalls, Drew Allers, Penn State, Preston Stone, SMU, Cam Rising, who's played for 10 years, Central Florida's KJ Jefferson, Jalen Milroe, Cam Ward, Will Rogers, Jackson Dart, Carson Beck, down the list. Group of 5, you got some guys that will have an opportunity to play next level. Kadion Salter, Liberty, he's a smaller guy, but man, he can play. App State's Joey Aguilar, he's a bigger kid. Memphis, Seth Hennigan. Miami of Ohio's Brett Gabbert. It's not going to be as deep of a class next year, so I think Shedeur Sanders has a chance to really be, top 5 pick if he can. He needs to have a good year, needs to stay healthy. And when you talk about Colorado this year, Joe said 2-4 or 3-3 through the first 6. Let's look at their schedule. Went through this weekend. Let's see. Colorado. I got them 6-6. They play North Dakota State. Here's the thing. They should not lose that ball game. Should not. But if North Dakota State, was to ding them, at Nebraska week 2, I have them a close loss. Now, I know they beat Nebraska this past year. This is a different look. Matt Rule has done this thing, fast-track Nebraska. They're going to be much better this year. They're a 7 or 8 win team in the Big Ten this year. I have them with a close loss at Colorado State and then Baylor before they get Central Florida and a bye week. So, Joe, to your credit, I have them 3-2 at the first break. Kansas State after the bye week, I have them losing to Kansas State. At Arizona with a close win. Cincinnati win. Man, the Bearcats have fallen off. And they have fallen on hard times in the new Big 12. Bye week, second bye week. At Texas Tech, a loss. Utah, a loss. At Kansas with a close win and a loss at Oklahoma State, or against Oklahoma State. So I have them 6-6. I have them with 1, 2, 3, 4 one-possession ball games this year. So, I mean, they could be 5-7. They could be 7-5. I don't think that they compete for the Big 12 championship. I think that is going to be between Central Florida, Kansas State, Utah, maybe West Virginia, and Oklahoma State. Those 4 teams. Maybe TCU. Texas Tech could be right there. So, I'm telling you, the Big 12 is going to be competitive and it's going to be fun. And I have Central Florida winning the league, by the way. I think KJ Jefferson on that roster, he's going to be healthy, rejuvenated. I mean, we've seen what KJ Jefferson can do in the SEC when he's healthy and got guys around him. Gus Malzahn's going to have guys around him. And I think it's going to be interesting to watch Central Florida. White Denzel. Beaver talking bad about LSU basketball, yet that bad team was the favorite Saturday versus State. What was the line, though? Was it like LSU minus 2.5 at a basketball game? Dexter. And that's a wrap on this week's Top 40. I'm Casey Kasem. See you next week, fans. Look, how about that?
Well, Dexter's leaving out the keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
I used to love Casey Kasem. That's how old I am. I used to listen to all of the weekly top 40. You know, kids don't know nothing about that these days. I got a 16-year-old right now. She's grounded. I've told you about this. And she doesn't have TikTok or some of the social apps right now. And she's dying on the vine. Dying on the vine right now. I'm just like, let me send you some podcasts to listen to. She's like, no. But like, what if we could have listened to a podcast when we were growing up?
Probably would have hated it.
Probably. But we didn't have the socials.
No, we were better for it.
I think so. Dexter said, that's it, Beeve. I knew I was missing something. 601-885-3776. We're brought to you by, that's how you can text the show, Waze Energy. Waze, fueling our heroes, fueling the state of Mississippi, a Mississippi company, and Mississippi's heritage inspires them every day. 4 great flavors to get your hands on: rescue, then engage, respond, and revive. Find Waze at many locations in central Mississippi like Hotspot Market 11, Brandon Market, Lake Harbor, Chevron, and more. Go to facebook.com/Waze Energy to get the interactive map. And, of course, WazeEnergy.com. A portion of the proceeds support the Gary Sinise Foundation. A great zero-sugar, high-caffeine drink. Back in just a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come to go back.
Back to the afternoon drive with Jake Wimberly. The hottest sports stories of the day.
For one of those moments, it only happens
Right here.
On ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
We're brought to you by Malone Roofing Services. ecmalone.com is their website. 8337 Malone Commercial. Residential roofing done right with Malone Roofing Services. We're also brought to you by Ranco Transmission. 1460 Old Brandon Road in Flowwood. 601-939-9184. 50-plus years. Foreign and domestic transmission repair with Ranco Transmission. All right, let's see here. Let me jump back into some of this other stuff I was looking at earlier today. We're talking about, teams that can bust the ceiling in college football. Texas Tech. Again, I mean, that's a nice team. Can we say that? Texas Tech is a nice team. It's a nice team. It's almost Maryland nice. But for some reason, the media over the last several years, they bought in on this Texas Tech narrative that, and I don't understand this why. There's nothing about football down in Lubbock. I mean, Mike Leach, rest in peace, had some pretty darn good success down there. Cliff Kingsbury never really did. It's a nice team. They recruited a mid-tier level. They've had some decent players. But again, the media just jumps in, and again, last year it was Texas Tech. This year it's Texas Tech. I'm here to tell you they're not. NC State, we talked about them earlier. And by the way, Texas Tech not ranked in the 247 Sports, way too early, top 25. Neither is SMU or South Florida, some of these teams we've been looking at. NC State is 21st. And again, Dave Dorian, he has done a great job at NC State. 4 times at NC State they've had a 10-win season over his 11-year tenure. But again, I just think the mountain is too hard to climb at the top. I still think there's some pieces missing to dethrone a Florida State, get over on Florida State, Clemson, and Miami this year. Virginia Tech is an interesting team this year. They really are. The Hokies, they hit the bottom of the barrel there for quite a while. Remember when was it Joseph Fuente? Bro Fuente? What was his first name? Was it Joe Fuente? No, I can't even remember his name, Beaver. But Justin Fuente. Why did I say Joseph? Well, he might as well be Joseph. But they have made somewhat of a comeback at Virginia Tech. Initial skepticism early for Brent Pry at Virginia Tech when he lost 11 of his first 15 games with the Hokies. But the switch was flipped midway through the 2023 campaign in Blacksburg. Took longer than expected for Pry's culture-centric mentality to make its way through the locker room. But by the end of the season, the buy-in was there. Antoine Powell-Ryland deciding to return for his senior season as a mega boost for Virginia Tech's defense after he finished with a team-best 9.5 sacks this past fall. Leading tackler Keelan Lawson is back in the middle. And they got Kyron Drones back at quarterback. And if you don't know about Kyron Drones, you're going to. He came on strong at the end of the year last year for Virginia Tech. And he's going to be a heck of a player this year. You look at Drones this past year, 17 touchdowns. He was just a sophomore. 17 through the air, only 3 interceptions, 2,085 yards. Completed right around 58% of his passes. So he missed on some passes, but he did not turn the football over a lot. And it's a guy that can run the football as well, 818 yards and 5 touchdowns. But again, when you look at Virginia Tech this year, let's go back to the ACC real quick. Virginia Tech. Oh, let's see. I got them somewhere around the middle of the pack of the ACC. This is a team that is likely going to win 7-8 ball games. I got them at 8-4. They open up at Vanderbilt this year, and then they play Marshall and Old Dominion before hosting Rutgers. They'll likely be at 4-0 when they host Miami. And then at Stanford before the bye week. Then they go Boston College, Georgia Tech, Syracuse on the road, Clemson. All of those games are going to be, that stretch is going to be pretty tough for them. At Duke and Virginia to finish the season. So, it's a nice team. It's a nice team. Maybe a team you want to look at the win total. West Virginia is a team that should make some noise in the Big 12 this year. With Texas and Oklahoma out of the way now, West Virginia had a nice, pretty darn good season last year. And, West Virginia this year, they return a lot of talent. They should compete in the Big 12, again, with Kansas State, Central Florida, Utah. And you look at the quarterback room or the quarterback rooms in the Big 12. Garrett Green is back. He's going to be a decent quarterback in that league, above average. There's some pretty good quarterback play in the Big 12, though. Shedeur Sanders at Colorado, Cam Rising at Utah, KJ Jefferson at Central Florida, Noah Fafita at Arizona, Jaylon Daniels at Kansas, Rocco Beck at Iowa State, and then Garrett Green at West Virginia. So there's some good ones. And then DeQuan Finn at Baylor. It's a deep, deep league, which is going to make it fun. It's going to make it real fun. And then when you look at Kansas, again, same. A lot of these teams fit the same mold. You talk about Kansas, West Virginia, Virginia Tech. You're talking about Texas Tech, a lot of the same makeup on these teams. Jaylon Daniels is going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the country if he can stay healthy. Lance Leopold, really good football coach. And we'll see. Nebraska. The problem with Nebraska, I do think Matt Rule is winning at Nebraska. They're going to play Dylan Raiola, freshman quarterback, 5-star guy. He's got a lot of upside. But the problem is they play in the Big Ten. And when you look at Nebraska this year, now remember, no more divisions in the Big Ten either. Nebraska will play Colorado. They'll play Illinois in the Big Ten. Let's see, I'm trying to see the big boys they play. They play at Ohio State, host UCLA, at USC, Wisconsin, and at Iowa. So, this is likely a year where Nebraska can get to 8 wins. Let's go to Mo. No, let's don't go to Mo. Go to Mo. On the text line. Go to Mo like he's on the phone lines. Pearl native, number 1 ranked inside offensive line transfer, Davion Carter, Texas Tech. You remember Davion Carter at Pearl?
I don't remember him at Pearl, but I'm looking at his numbers at Memphis here. That's pretty impressive. According to Pro Football Focus, PFF grade of 79.4, good for 11th nationally. Carter has a pass block grade of 87.2 in 522 passing snaps.
It's not bad.
Sounds good to me.
Right? No doubt about it. Well, he is ranked number 1 inside offensive line transfer. All D1 FBS is courtesy, like you said, of Pro Football Focus. So that's high praise. That is high praise coming from Pearl City. Right? So you'll need to take that and market that. Market it through the city. You could use it. Put it on a billboard. Just trying to help you out here. Should be a big 2 years for Pearl, remember? We're talking about that. And that is the teams there where we've talked about that could make that splash. Also, some other stuff that I want to get into. The dark horse Heisman candidates, I do think there's some really good candidates for this. Really good candidates. But the thing is, remember this with dark horse Heisman, you got to win. Got to win 9, 10. 9 is the floor. I think we established that. 9 is a I mean, you got to have big-time stats and then win 9. We'll talk a little baseball with Doug Kyle coming up at 5:15. We're brought to you by A1 Gear and Auto, your hometown vehicle specialist, 601-939-1060. Let A1 get your vehicle in Class A shape, anything under the hood, engine, starters, radiators, your heat, your air conditioner, rear differentials, rings, and pinions. Back in a bit.
WRKS Pickens Jackson, where it's
Time
to take a ride. Yes, we're back with Jake Wimberly on the afternoon drive. It's live, it's local, and it's on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
Hour 3 on a Monday. Stream it on thezone1059.com. Hey, we're brought to you by our friends at Capitol Grill in Jackson, 5050 I-55 North, Suite F. Get a Michelob Ultra, get a Bud Light. Enjoy. Please drink responsibly, courtesy of Southern Beverage. Forget about the work day. Grab a meal, grab a handcrafted food or beverage special at Capitol Grill. Also, get a game of pool. Enjoy your sports and more. That's at Capitol Grill of Jackson, 5050 I-55 North, Suite F. And, of course, get them on Facebook.com, and also you can get them on CapitolGrillofJackson.com. We're also brought to you by Mirrostar. Get out and play. We'll talk to Keith Hardy later this week as we march towards March Madness and more. Chris Landry, Hour 2. Also, Doug Kyle coming up in the next segment. We'll talk a little college baseball. As you look at this week, let's see here. Where did my schedule go? All right. Baseball. Coming up midweek. Again, how do teams play? Jackson State will play at Mississippi State. That'll be tomorrow. And then, of course, we'll be off the air at 5 o'clock, Mississippi State basketball. And for anybody who wants to know, I'm sure radio will be basketball. Will not be baseball, I would assume, because we're going off the air. So that'll probably be local, like we always say. Little Rock will play at Ole Miss. Just looking through some of these matchups, they're very loose. Presbyterian at Georgia. Western Kentucky at Kentucky. Gardner-Webb at South Carolina. Jackson State at Mississippi State. Grambling, Arkansas. Tennessee hosts High Point. Ole Miss, Little Rock. Indiana State will travel to Vanderbilt. Southeast Missouri at Missouri. Florida will travel to Stetson. Lamar at Texas A&M. Alabama at UAB. And then Samford at Auburn. All right, let's see here. Top draft picks, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels won't throw at the NFL Combine. Do you have any thoughts on this? Now, Chris said it probably doesn't matter, but if you're going to play your pro day, if you're going to do your pro day only, you better burn it up. Is this a red flag, though, on Caleb Williams? I'm not going to do anything at the Combine. With everything else going on with Caleb Williams, this is a red flag.
Well, I don't like when these quarterbacks decide to sit out a drill. Now, they say he's still going to be there. He's still going to meet with teams, all that business. Why wouldn't you throw? Oh, I want to wait until everything is just perfect for me, as when I'm in my home stadium, when I throw into my own receivers that I've been with. Of course, allegedly, they don't even like him. So I don't like it when we see these prospects not do something.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Res Dog, can you please just cancel all baseball broadcasts for the rest of the year?
Oh, but I'm sorry, but it's not even going to matter because he's top 3. Guaranteed.
Oh, absolutely.
Still.
Yeah.
Still.
Well,
Because no one has none of these NFL owners or anything has the cojones, I guess, whatever. Oh, well, hey, a lot of question marks potentially on this guy. Oh, well, we don't care. We don't care if he's a horrible person or not. Go get him.
It's the old risk versus reward. It's risk versus reward because NFL teams know, and in the general public, everybody knows this. If you don't have a quarterback, you have nothing. You could have 3 stud receivers, 2 stud. If you don't have a quarterback, you have nothing. And that's where this game is won. And when you look at Caleb Williams, as far as talent, he is the best talent. But what they'll look at and go, it's kind of like if you're a guy and you meet this girl who looks really, really good. She's 11 out of 10. But then the buddies are like, man, she is a train wreck, right? Or for you ladies out there, We'll go the other way. Handsome guy, but he is just a train wreck. He's emotionally broken. That whole deal. Your thought is what? If they're interested in you, I can fix them, right? I can fix her. I can do this. I know how this works. And you give it a shot, right? Because it's 11 out of 10. These NFL teams look at these quarterbacks and go, I can fix that guy. Our coaches can make it work. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Remember all the noise on C.J. Stroud last year. Did really horrible on the Wonderlic and all this stuff. And everybody, again, Chris Landry talked about this. Whoever leaked it, that's Bush League, to leak out all that stuff. But the question is, can the Bears really, can they make this work with Caleb Williams?
No.
I don't know if the Bears can make it work with anybody.
Not on offense.
Doesn't seem that way. Marvin Harrison Jr. is, when you look at the top 10 players, regardless of position, Caleb Williams is number 1. This is courtesy of NFL.com. Marvin Harrison Jr., number 2. Regardless of position, Rome Odunze, wide receiver at Washington. Malik Neighbors, wide receiver, LSU. Drake May, quarterback, North Carolina. Jaden Daniels, quarterback, LSU, number 6. Brock Bowers, Georgia tight end, number 7. And again, Bowers is a guy who he's going to be off the board quick. Within the first 10 picks probably. Hadn't heard a lot. I mean, he's just kind of like is he a lunch pail guy? Can we call him a lunch pail guy? You're not going to get a whole lot on Bowers other than he can play football and do it well. But is he a lunch pail guy? Can we go there with him? You're not going to go there? Are you not sold on Brock Bowers?
No, I'm just not going to use that phrase.
Lunch pail, is that overused?
Bringing his lunch pail. He's a spark plug, gym rat, high motor, can go all day. Brings a lunch pail.
Mo says, is Marvin staying or going? Marvin Harrison Jr.? Oh, he's in. He's off the board quick, too. Top 5 picks. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going. 100%. Terrion Arnold, cornerback, Alabama, rated as the 8th best overall player. Now, some of this might change, obviously, after the combine. And then pro days. Joe Alt, offensive lineman, Notre Dame, number 9. And number 10 is Talisi Fuaga from Oregon State, offensive tackle. So you got a couple big guys in there. And then you get some more of the big guys in the next 10. Dallas Turner, edge rusher, Alabama. Penn State offensive lineman. I'm not even going to try to pronunciate this guy's name. There's no way in heck I'm going to be able to do that. Fashunu is his last name. I can give you that. His first name, just call it O. Do you know who this guy?
Do it.
Alumiawa? Fashunu, is that right? Alumiawa Fashunu. Look this guy up. Penn State offensive lineman. He's a junior. Olumuyiwi.
Hold up.
I just don't want to disrespect the guy's name, and I butcher enough on names. But I know Fashunu has got to be his last name. That's why I said Fashunu. 601-885-3776. That is the Cowboy Millennials text line. J.C. Latham, Alabama, offensive tackle. Number 13, edge rusher out of Florida State, Jared Verse. Quinion Mitchell, Toledo corner at number 15. Brian Thomas, wide receiver, LSU, number 16. Fuatano, that's Troy Fuatano, offensive tackle from Washington. Big protector of Michael Penix. Did you find this guy? I want you to give me the pronunciation on this. Tyler Gooten, offensive tackle, Oklahoma, number 18. Number 19, Amarius Mims, Georgia, offensive tackle, and then edge rusher. Latu from UCLA. So, yeah, first 10 is going to be a lot of quarterback, Brock Bowers, wide receivers, one offensive lineman. Then the next 10 off the board, you're probably going to see a lot mixed of offensive tackles, defensive ends, edge rushers, pluggers on defense. Did you find your guy? You got a shot at this?
No, and that's why him himself on his X goes by Olu.
Olu.
Just OLU.
That's much simpler. Are you going to try the pronunciation on the real name?
Olumuyiwa.
There we go. We're brought to you by Gutter Masters. GutterMastersLLC.com is where you can find Gutter Masters, 601-503-7755. Get protected today. Custom gutter solutions on your home today with Gutter Masters. Doug Kyle coming up next.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And welcome back to the Afternoon Drive with Jake Wimberly, where he's talking about anything and everything that's Mississippi sports.
No, great afternoon.
Right here on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online worldwide on the Zone1059.com.
We're brought to you by Maristar Casino. 4 great restaurants on the property. The Red Lotus, New Asian Cuisine on the bottom floor. You've also got Bella's on the second floor. Third floor, you got the Heritage Restaurant, and you've got Bourbon's, the Steakhouse on the third as well. 4 great restaurants to help you out, get you fed while you're there. Of course, get down to the end zone, see Keith Hardy and the team at Maristar Casino. Doug Kyle on your radio, talking college baseball Central. Find them on X, find them on YouTube and more. A little update on college baseball. Doug, welcome in. How are you?
Hey, Jake. How's it going?
So far, so good. So far, so good. All right, what's your take on Mississippi State and Ole Miss? Some tough outings over the last week. Both sit at 4-4 overall. Again, this is early, but I preface, a little red flag on both of these teams when you look at, the Alabamas, the Texas A&Ms, the LSUs, the Auburns of the world, even Arkansas, plus on the win column, and then of course you look at Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, all kind of doing what they're supposed to do. I mean, this thing separates quickly in baseball, and at least early. Now Vanderbilt should pull this thing together. Missouri, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, it doesn't look good early when you project into what's potentially coming in the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah, if Mississippi State was 8-0 right now, nobody would be complaining about playing at 3 o'clock tomorrow or playing Thursday through Saturday at 3-2. It's just whenever you're not having the season that you want or you expect, that's going to happen. And Mississippi State and Ole Miss, they are 4-4. At least nobody in the SEC is below 500 right now. They're both 4-4. And then Missouri has played one fewer game. They're 4-3. And you mentioned Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's 5-3, but yet they're still in our poll at 14. So we talked about reputation and perception, and that's kind of what carries you sometimes until you figure out what's going on. One of the things with Mississippi State is, and everybody has injuries, but they're just now getting back a couple of key players, David Mershon and Logan Kohler. Logan started the year, hurt himself in the first game, and then he's just come back. Mershon had a pulled hamstring, and he's been back for 3 games now. All Mersh did yesterday was go 4 for 5. And then Logan Kohler is hitting 385. Mersh is hitting 462. They will have enough plate appearances or games played to figure into the official statistics. But, those are kids that when you get them back on the field, they make a huge difference. And then now we're looking at maybe 3 pitchers that are expected back at some point this year. Obviously, Stone Simmons has been gone since the Tulane series in 22. Bradley Lofton, according to Chris Lamonis, has got some tendonitis, and they're trying to move him along slowly. And of course, Pico Cone, who was really very effective at left-handed pitching. So those are some kids that they're looking to come back, and that's going to give them a little bit more option, because there was a game the other day where they really had gotten pretty thin in the bullpen. So right now, you're looking at getting kids back. And then I know people are upset about losing to Austin Peay and losing one to Air Force and losing one to Georgia Southern. But I did a little research. Austin Peay lost their first game, and all they've done is won 8 in a row since then. And that includes playing this afternoon. And then Air Force has won, after they left Mississippi, 1 in 3. They went to Southern Miss on Monday after state and lost there. So they left Mississippi 1 in 3, but they had won 3 in a row coming in. And then the big test that I'm really anxious to see this series, or at least see the results, Georgia Southern is going to be taking on our favorite Campbells this weekend. So that'll be some games to watch, and you'll start to figure out, who is really good regardless of the name on their jersey.
Doug Kyle on your radio talking a little college baseball on a Monday. Big week, as always, in college baseball. Make sure to find them on X. Check them out on YouTube and more. That is College Baseball Central. Wake Forest, TCU, Oregon State, number one in the poll for you guys. Obviously, again, it's early, but you got a lot of flavor around the country. Wake, TCU, and Oregon State at the top.
Yeah, Wake Forest got beat last week. I think it was UNC Greensboro or UNC Wilmington. Might be Wilmington who's playing Air Force today. And, of course, everybody was just up in arms for about 24 hours, and then that kind of went out of the way. And, yeah, you've got ACC, you've got Big 12 and Pac-12 at the top of the poll. But then look what they have. You have 5 SEC teams in a row. And one thing that is conspicuous this week, we talked about Iowa last week and Brody Breck and that rotation. They go to Jacksonville, that tournament down there, and they get swept. They go 0 for 3. And you can see they're out of the poll now. They're coming in at what would be, I guess, 28 or 29. But, that's what happens early in the year is, you hit a snag. And there were some great games this past weekend. I was following the ones in Dallas. Arkansas beat Oregon State 5-4. And then the very next night they go 14 innings with Oklahoma State. And here's a name you'll recognize. A kid named Lane Forsythe puts down a suicide bunt in the 14th inning, and Oklahoma State beats them. So it's nice to see Lane, is back with another team and doing well there. But, there's just some terrific baseball going on right now, and it's going to take a while. It may even be conference play before you really get an idea of who's good and who is bringing up, the middle of the pack, so to speak.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Let's get you out the door talking about something that, these other teams we always like to look at. Indiana at 19, Campbell at 20. The Camels, as you referenced, Coastal Carolina, always good baseball in the Carolina areas. Of course, you go back into the, upper half. You got your South Carolinas, your East Carolinas, as you referenced, Vanderbilt at 14. So, again, to your point, it's going to take a few more weeks. We got to get through some of this, and then you get into conference play. Look at also receiving votes. The Indiana, there's teams like Indiana State, UC Irvine, UCLA, teams we've seen with some baseball history. Some others maybe not so much, like Kansas State, also San Diego and Central Florida.
Yeah, and Alabama and Georgia are the two undefeateds in the conference, and Alabama is in at 25 on our poll this week, and Georgia's getting some votes. People are going to notice Georgia because they got Charlie Condon, who was named the player of the week at the SEC. And I can't get out of here without mentioning Hagen Smith. We thought we saw Nate Doan pitch great this past weekend. And then I pull up the online stuff, and there's Hagen Smith for Arkansas. He pitches 6 innings, and out of the 18 batters he retired, he got 17 strikeouts. So, that's going to be one of those when you play them on Friday night, you're going to be going, okay, well, who are we going to throw against him?
Make sure to find them on X. You can check them out, College Baseball Central, also YouTube and more. Doug, I appreciate you guys as always. Look, have a great week. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks, Jake.
Appreciate it. Doug Kyle on your radio. You can find them there for their baseball poll. And, of course, a lot of college baseball action. We'll see what happens with Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Bieber, how long do Mississippi State fans and Ole Miss fans stay dialed into these baseball teams? We're going another week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
No, they're going to wait till conference play.
You think they'll keep those fingers crossed through conference play? That's fair. That's fair. Dexter talking about NFL teams, and, of course, we were talking about the similarities to, quote, dating, and then why NFL teams they'll take a shot at a big-time quarterback or player early, especially early. Says comparisons to male and female. My dad used to say if the guy smashes his beer, a beer can, he's not the one. If your female date burps at the dinner table, she's not the one. Don't overlook those things in referencing to drafting players. Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's red flags with players, and then sometimes there's no red flags, and then they don't pan out either. Any thoughts to Kyler Murray being back in the good graces of the Arizona Cardinals? Or is this short-lived or long-term now? Because right now they're out here saying, hey, QB1, he's the guy again.
Yeah, they love this kid for some reason.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, I wouldn't, if I was a betting man, and I am, I would say that this thing, unless unless it turns quickly for him, I mean, they're going to be right back in the same situation. They're going to have a big year out of him and, of course, a big year out of that offense. Also, Eli Drinkwitz says that transfer Caden Green will start Missouri left tackle. Also adds that, well, I don't know that I can say that on the air. But anyway, Eli Drinkwitz talking about his transfer class, talking about also spring practice. A lot of coaches going to be talking about spring practice as it is here for a lot of teams. Hey, we're brought to you by Bailey Lumber, open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Special selections vary by store, limited stock on hand. 4525, that's John Lynch Street in Jackson. Also 2150 Mississippi Highway 471. Trex Decking Specials, GAF Roofing Specials, lumber, windows, doors, and supplies. Everything you need under one roof at BaileyLumber.com. Go to BaileyLumber.com. Back in a bit.
Okay, we're back. I'm ready. It's more of the afternoon drive with Jake Wimberly, where he's live and local on Jackson Sports Authority, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, and online at thezone1059.com.
Brought to you by Premier Plastic Surgery. Contact Dr. Erica Bass today, Mississippi Premier Plastic Surgery. If you got questions, guys, about their awake liposuction, it could be the answer for this spring and summer. Get you back on the right track as you get back in the gym and try to get ready for swimsuit season, boating season, whatever it may be. 601-981-2525. Do you like Lane Kiffin?
Yeah. I don't know if I like the guy. I think he's a couple years ago. I do like how he just started telling the truth, though. He seemed a couple years ago with his thoughts on NIL and all that business. He became one of the only truth tellers that we hear, or that we were hearing at the time. He tells it like it is. I do like that.
He has become, by all accounts now, me and Lane aren't boys. We'll never be boys. I've never hung out with Lane Kiffin, never hang out with him. I don't run in those circles, right? I am a lowly radio guy down here in Central Mississippi. 7 people listen to this show. But I like Lane Kiffin for what I see, which is just what you said. Really good football coach. Knows how to work the portal, knows how to navigate a football team in this modern-day era of college football, and he tells it like it is. Ole Miss football this morning put out on X, Twitter, and I will retweet this right now, says best returning quarterback wide receiver duo in college football, Jackson Dart and Trey Harris. Now, they very well could be. But the video that they put out, Ole Miss football on Twitter, now we're talking about the Twitter account, X account for Ole Miss football, 335,000 followers. I mean, it is the Ole Miss Twitter feed. And the video is very cringeworthy. It is Trey Harris and Jackson Dart. It's about a 7-second clip. And Beaver watched it. They're in this wooded area with this house, and Dart throws this football, and it does this little circle, 360, 360, 360. And then it's this weird pose of Harris catching a football, and then they both act like they're pulling back a bow and arrow and shooting it. What did you think of this video when you saw it? Very dumb. Lane Kiffin retweets this and says, please don't ever do this again. Facepalm. Calls his own school Twitter feed out. Just calls them out. Like, stop this. What are you doing? And in these comments, it is fascinating. One guy says, did they put the uniforms on and do a photo shoot in the woods like people do for engagement announcements? Why? Who thought this was good? Get this person away from the team. Lane says 100. Somebody got fired today. Somebody got relieved of their duties when the head ball coach of an SEC program calls out their own universities. And remember who runs these accounts. I mean, these are staffers or whoever, social media teams or whoever is running these accounts. Somebody didn't ask Lane Kiffin about this. They didn't run it across his desk and say, hey, Coach, what do you think about this video? I bet you moving forward, that will happen. So this makes me like Lane Kiffin even more. The fact that this guy went straight after his own social media team. It's like, don't do this. And he didn't do it privately. He did it publicly. So that's very interesting to me. Rhett Cetera, You can text us 601-885-3776. The best litmus test for wife material is, quote, how does she treat her dad? I think that's fair. How do they treat their dad? I think that's good. Rhett, I think that is Rhett the most knowledgeable person that we have on the text line? Now, I know Joe and some others would be. Rhett always comes with some good stuff. And, well, that quote, does she poop with her door open? That brought
just kind of ruined it right there.
Rhett just went back down on that one? Is that where you're at?
Yeah. I mean, you went so far as to downgrade people like Dog Tired Florence.
No.
By saying that Rhett is the most knowledgeable.
Could he be?
The most knowledgeable.
We know how knowledgeable Dog Tired is.
And then he texted about pooping.
It's the yin and the yang of Rhett. All right, let's see here. Other stuff is out here. Let's get into some of these long shot Heisman odds. Brad Crawford, 247sports.com. We talked about Central Florida in hour one, or South Florida, rather. Byram Brown. FanDuel has him at 501 to win the Heisman Trophy. That's a long shot odd. South Florida would have to go undefeated. And then, of course, Brown would have to have another fantastic year. Last year, he accounted for 37 touchdowns and more than 4,000 offensive yards. 4,000 offensive yards. Did you watch this guy play last year? South Florida, Byram Brown. But a lot of people, I didn't. I watched him against Alabama. Played well against Bama. Could they beat Alabama in week 2? Could South Florida walk into Tuscaloosa in week 2 and beat them? Upset city. Could it happen? What? This guy is a 4,000-yard guy. Coming into Alabama, new coaching staff, trying to find their sea legs in college football.
See, this is why this show is not as good as it was just like 2 years ago, because now all of a sudden you're just talking.
What do you mean?
You just talk, man. Like this Alabama stuff. But yeah, go ahead. Now 6-6. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
I'm just what do you mean 2 years ago? What made it all right, let's self-analyze here. What made us better 2 years ago that's not
we're not going to talk about that, but South Florida beating Alabama. Jake.
They had them on the ropes.
Point is that you just keep saying these things, just to say these things, just to what's Jake Wimberly talking about? South Florida. Think about this.
They had them on the ropes for 3 quarters last year. You remember that?
Well, look who those quarterbacks were. Saban made that dumb decision, that real weird decision. And then we saw, Ty Simpson and Tyler Buckner.
Throw me some random Alabama quarterback names. I'd believe it.
And Doug Bohunkles, I think, came in the fourth quarter.
Right.
No.
I don't know what he was doing.
No, Jake. Don't entertain that.
Malik Murphy is on this list. Transfer quarterback, Texas, 250 to 1 odds at Duke. Problem is he's playing at Duke. Now, he'd have to elevate Duke to 9-10 wins, and his head coach is Manny Diaz. So look, Malik Murphy's, by all accounts, a very talented guy. He gave it every shot he could at Texas, and I commend him for that. Probably a year too long at Texas, but he's going to get a shot at Duke. Caden Salter at Liberty, he's 200 to 1 odds. The problem is Liberty, right? They could go undefeated. They could make the college football playoff, and they're likely going to get dust rolled in round 1. Seth Hennigan's at Memphis. He is one of the better ones that's come through there in a long time. 2023, he had a league best in the AAC, 3,882 yards, 68.8% completion percentage. But again, Memphis would have to get to the college football playoff, and that would mean that they would win a lot of games. He's 150 to 1 odds. Rhett Cetera says, I don't know about knowledge. I just text in to try to make Beaver maul.
Good use of maul, Rhett. No one uses that anymore.
Ollie Gordon, running back, Oklahoma State, 150 to 1 odds. Now, again, rarely do we see running backs win the Heisman Trophy. I mean, you're talking about a guy who went for 1732 on the ground. That's yardage-wise. Might be the only player that's going to be rated 99 in the new college football game. But, again, Oklahoma State is going to have to win the Big 12, get to the college football playoff, and they'll be in the conversation in the Big 12. Quinshon Judkins is on this list, running back Ohio State, 120-1 odds. I don't know if there's enough carries in that backfield. Ohio State is going to be right there at the end. They're going to be a playoff team. They're likely going to be in the Final Four. Judkins will be a big part of that, but again, he's sharing that backfield with Travion Henderson. Plus, you look at some of the playmakers on Ohio State. Chief Shooting Bull. A Duke undergraduate degree is quite lucrative. That came out of nowhere. Am I missing something with that? A Duke undergraduate degree is quite lucrative. Did Space Ghost hack his account? I'm not understanding what that means. 601-897-1059. That is the Malone Roofing caller line. We're brought to you by New South and Aero Spine, Mississippi Spine Center. Online at ns2.md. Open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And, of course, Saturdays till 1. Walk in their spine clinic right there in Flowood, or go to ns2.md. That's Mississippi Spine Center. Got to take a time out. One more segment to go on. What is this? Monday edition of the program. Back in a bit.
This is the home of the Chuck Oliver Show every weekday from 10 till noon on Mississippi's live and local sports authority. And where? We're back to Jake Quiverly with the afternoon drive on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
Final segment as we roll through a Monday. Appreciate Chris Landry, also Doug Kyle jumping in. We'll have Kelly Ford tomorrow. We'll get to Starkville or Oxford as we poke around and see what's going on in the state of Mississippi. We're brought to you by Mac Hike in Madison, Gluckstadt. Go to MacHikeMadison.com for more information, new and used inventory. I was out there today. A lot of great inventory that Darren and his group has in Gluckstadt. Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Chevy. Madison Gluckstadt is still Truck Month going on this week. Go to MacHikeMadison.com as well. All right, let's see. Chief Shooting Bull. Murphy is at Duke. Okay, I got you. Duke undergrad degree is quite lucrative. No, I get you now. I see what he's saying. Yeah, Malik Murphy is at Duke. Grayson McCall is at NC State. We talked about NC State as well. FanDuel has him at 120-1 to win the Heisman. I mean, McCall is a guy that has just put up stupid numbers. Stupid numbers. If you go back and look at Grayson McCall, Coastal Carolina, and this is a guy that was flirting with coming out in this year's NFL draft. He decided to come back. Now, McCall was hurt a lot this past year. He only played in 7 ball games, 10 touchdowns and 6 picks. But if NC State gets this former version, McCall went 24 touchdowns, 2 picks 2 years ago in 2022, 2,700 yards, almost 70% completion percentage. McCall's a guy that can run it a little bit. 6 touchdowns that year. You go back to 2021. Let's see. McCall, 27 touchdowns and 3 picks. In 2 years, 21 and 22, he accounted for 54 touchdowns. Or let's see. Let me see. 51 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. And you go back to COVID, he had 26 touchdowns and 3 picks. If this young man is healthy, he's going to make life miserable for teams in the ACC. And NC State could very well be a dark horse in that conference. I mean, he accounted in 3 years prior to this past year, he accounted for almost 70 touchdowns and less than 10 interceptions. Now, you look at McCall, 6'3", 200 pounds, Indian Trail, North Carolina. I mean, he's going to be a heck of a player, I think, at the next level. It just did not come out this year. I don't think it set up well for him. He played hurt a lot of the year. And now he resets. Sean C. Memphis on X. Clinton Body Shop X feed. He says, hey, Beeve, Seth Hennigan, long shot, put your dollars on him. So he is saying take Seth Hennigan for the Heisman at Memphis.
No, I'm on board. Simply because, mainly because he's got that. There was an episode of Seinfeld. Kramer got drunk off Hennigan's scotch, and he's drunkenly started singing H-E-double-N-I, and that's where my brain went. Sorry about that. But I'm looking at this kid's stats. It's kind of impressive. From his sophomore season to his junior season, played the same amount of games. Completion percentage went up by almost 3. Threw for more yards. Threw for 10 more touchdowns. His rating went up 10 points. Heisman, a bit of a long shot, Sean C. But those are impressive numbers.
Well, you look at Memphis and their football schedule this year. But again, I think it's going to be Memphis or South Florida in the AAC, and there very well could be a college football playoff berth alive. You know, they're going to have to, 1, win the conference, and then 2, battle Liberty. But strength of schedule, you know, if all things are considered equal, let's just say Liberty and Memphis or South Florida win their conferences. That'd be Conference USA for Liberty, the AAC for Memphis or South Florida. The strength of schedule numbers would be higher. If both teams finish 12-1, the strength of schedule numbers would be higher for Memphis or South Florida just because of the conference, and that may play a big part into that. Memphis starts out with North Alabama. Then they play Troy September 7th. They go to Florida State on September 14th. Mike Norvell gets to take on his former team. I don't think that they'll have the horses to win that game. Middle Tennessee, and then, of course, they got to get the TV stuff done before they get the rest of the schedule on dates and such. But UAB, Charlotte, North Texas, Rice, at Navy. Yeah, Memphis at some point. Now, this is not going to be, I don't think, in all order, but at Navy, at Tulane, at South Florida, and at UTSA. So they'll go to UTSA in South Florida and Tulane. So, I mean, it's pretty tough in that conference. I mean, we'll see if Tulane can keep this thing going. I think that they probably can to some degree. The success they've had over the last several years. South Florida's going to be a tough game. Raymond James Stadium. At UTSA at the Alamo Dome. Jeff Traylor.
Dome?
The Dome.
What you just said?
How did that even slip out of my mouth?
See?
2 years ago, much better show. Now you're going to have to make me. I'm going to sit back and wonder, what did we do 2 years ago that was better? Why are we off the cuff here? Okay. Alamo Dome. Dome? How do you say dome? How should I be saying dome?
Dome.
Dome. Alamo Dome.
Dome. Not dome. There's no dome.
Dome. Alamo Dome. How about that? We'll go with that. Hey, you've been in that building. Do you like that building?
Yeah.
It's a nice building. It's better than a nice building. Let's see here. Also, real quickly before we get out of here. What is this? Oh, okay. 2025, way too early recruiting. You know, as the number 1 class in the country right now, this will change. Notre Dame. Are we sleeping on Notre Dame? It's hard to sleep on the team that's got the most coverage in the country, just about. But are we sleeping on Notre Dame?
No, we are right where we should be on Notre Dame. They'll have a good season, probably get a playoff spot, and they'll get beat in the first or second round.
Yeah, I think, who I believe will be in this college football playoff already done. I'm not going to tell you yet. But I will tell you Notre Dame is one of them. Their schedule, like when you look at some of the teams that are going to be in the running for the college football playoff, like weakest schedules, Notre Dame's going to be one of them. Miami's one of them. Miami's got a weak. There is no reason Miami should not be in this playoff. None. Top recruit in the ACC, one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Cam Ward, weak schedule. They should be there. Conversely, I mean, Georgia, and I'll tell you this, Ohio State's schedule is not that hard. I mean, all things compared. Ohio State and Oregon, much less on the schedules versus Georgia, Texas, and even Tennessee for that matter. Penn State and Clemson, weaker schedules. Just some teams that will be in the running for this. Thanks to Chris Landry. Also, thanks to Doug Kyle. Appreciate you guys today. Remember, ketchup is king. Bacon's a delicacy. Aloha means goodbye. Be a man of increase. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.